Welcome to Marriott MBA Today. I'm your host, Dan Patton, and I'm joined here today by Stetson Drolet and by Carlos Madrid. Thank you very much for coming on the show today, guys. Just by way of introduction, these guys are both actually students here at BYU, seniors, studying political science. And have come on the show today to tell us a little bit more about the exit poll process, what we learned from the 2012 election here on November 6th, just recently. So first off, I just want to start off by talking to you about what you did out in the field. I understand that you were out there conducting the exit polls. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Carlos and I are we're on just a roving committee. So the way that the day is set up is that we have people that go to each polling location. Those are our pollsters. And there's people like Carlos and myself that just other students from different universities that are in a van, and our job is just to go around to each of those locations and make sure that they're accurately polling the people, that they're making sure that they get the right person to interview and that they don't have any problems, that they're healthy and happy, pretty much. And so with that, we were generally just in the Provo-Orem area, but we also were down in little-known cities as Goshen, it's a place in Utah, and also Elkridge.
Okay, great. Did you meet any interesting characters there, people that resisted your attempts to poll them, or how did that work?
You know, there was one location, just in one of our Orem locations, and typically it's just hard in the morning time, especially with older males. They're busy, they're working, and so trying to get them to fill out our polls can be tricky sometimes.
Right.
They're a little cold.
Okay. How many people are on your committee then?
Well, just on our committee, when we were going out working in the vans, there was about four of us that were in the vans, but we'd go out to each polling location, and the way we planned it out was about 5 to 6 people at each polling location so that they wouldn't miss anyone coming out, and so that they could stay on their interval and make sure that everyone was able to get their surveys.
Okay, great. So that's basically how you spent the day. What did you guys do into the evening time? Were you aggregating polling results? Were you out there in the field?
Yeah, so evening time, we had to work with BYU Broadcasting just to get some of the candidates to do interviews with us, and so I was in Salt Lake at the Democrat headquarters, their campaign headquarters, and Carlos was with the Republicans.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me about the differences in the dynamics at the Democratic versus the Republican headquarters. I understand that the Democrats, the expectations have to be a little bit different being a Democrat here in Utah. What's the dynamic, the excitement level there versus at the Republican side?
No, well, I was at the Republican headquarters at the Hilton Hotel, and it was definitely very lively in the beginning of the night. I got there right around 6:30, just for setup and whatnot. But everyone was excited and just hoping for that, Mitt Romney win. And so nationally, there was a lot of hopes. Obviously, here in Utah, the expectation of winning locally was very high and probable as well. Obviously, once Romney was projected to not win, it got a little quieter. But the wins locally definitely gave him that energy to keep going through the night.
Utah Democrats are very energetic. They're very lively people. At the headquarters there in the Sheraton Hotel, it was a great atmosphere. Every time they would get race results for each state, even if it was just at the beginning stages, there was loud cheering and people were going nuts, especially when, one of the contrasts that I thought was interesting is that Carlos and I were talking with each other just because we were working on other stories and had to collaborate. And so while we would interview for people, I would say, even though 20% of the vote is casted for this state, Democrats are going crazy, they're excited, and Carlos would just be like, it's pretty silent over here. Not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Oh, that's interesting. So I understand that you were actively involved in getting the candidates to talk on camera throughout the night and so forth, connecting them with the broadcasters. How did you have such a relationship with these candidates?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually just a few months prior, probably right around September, early October, we started to build this relationship with all the candidates. We did background pieces on most of them, and broadcast and political science students would go out and interview them, get to know who they are, what their campaign is all about. So early on, we built up these relationships. So on election night, it was a lot easier for our students to get interviews with them on camera right after the election. And it was interesting to see that other news stations were actually congregating around us because they saw that we had the interviews that they wanted. And right after a candidate would be done, they do all they could to get them on their station. So it was interesting to see that BYU students could actually do something so big, and the professionals are watching us.
Right. Wow, excellent. Okay, well, final question. Do you guys see any evidence that Utah is trending at all more Democratic? You know, I understand that Mitt Romney won with a good margin here, maybe not quite as good of a margin as Reagan back in the 80s. Mia Love wasn't quite able to beat Jim Matheson. Are we heading toward a more Democrat-based Utah?
Yeah, I think that we could see, the nice thing about our poll is that it's not something that we just did this year, but we've been able to do it since the mid-'80s. And so with that, we can track over time how Utah is trending. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now, is just seeing how, because you can definitely say that there is a shift that Utah is becoming more Democratic, but it would be nice, like we get to look at to see just how much, how so, in which ways. Because again, Matheson won, which with that congressional seat being open, I think a lot of people expected Mia Love to win just because she did have a lot of national hype too.
Right.
So that's what we're working on right now, going through that data.
Well, it's very fascinating. A lot of data, I'm sure, to parse through. Thank you very much again for joining our show. I've really appreciated it. I think we've all learned quite a bit. This has been another wonderful episode of Marriott MBA Today. Please stay tuned for another great episode.